Hey everyone, welcome back
Yeah, welcome back.
to another deep dive. You ready to,
Always ready.
to dive into another fascinating topic?
Absolutely.
Today we're looking at Noah's Ark.
It's one of those stories
Yeah.
that has just kind of captivated people for centuries across cultures and religions.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at the source, the story of Noah and the Ark, a tale of faith, obedience, and redemption for this deep dive.
Yeah, a great source to really kind of dig into all the different layers and nuances.
Yeah, and I mean, right away, the source goes into, it paints this really vivid picture of like the world as it was, back then.
Yeah, it really kind of sets the stage, doesn't it?
It does.
So this whole narrative.
Yeah, and it really emphasizes, this idea of like corruption and violence being just like rampant.
Like widespread across.
Yeah, so it makes you think like, has humanity always kind of been grappling with this like pull toward, not so great behavior?
Well, yeah, it really makes you think about those kind of fundamental truths, about the human experience, this kind of cyclical struggle between good and evil.
Yeah.
Creation and destruction.
Yeah, and then we get Noah, right?
Right in the midst of all of this chaos, we have this beacon of righteousness.
Yeah. What do you think it is about Noah that makes him so unique?
Well, the source really points to his righteousness.
Okay.
That's what makes him stand out in God's eyes.
So almost like his goodness is like a catalyst for everything that's about to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting how this one man's virtue kind of becomes the linchpin for the whole story.
Yeah, now one thing I thought was really interesting that the source points out is that there are a lot of parallels with Noah's Ark and other flood myths from around the world.
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
Like the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, why is this particular story resonating so deeply?
Right. Is it just a coincidence or is there something more at play?
Yeah, or maybe these myths are reflecting some shared human experience.
Like a primal fear of nature.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe a longing for renewal.
Right.
It's just really...
It's worth thinking about, for sure.
Yeah. And then, we get to the point of the story where God decides to intervene.
Right. He decides to cleanse the earth with a flood.
Right. But there's a twist.
Yeah. But he wants to preserve life.
And this is where Noah's righteousness comes into play.
Exactly. And that's where we get the ark.
And I'm always so struck by the size of this thing.
It's massive.
Yeah, the source goes into detail, like all the dimensions, the materials, the instructions Noah receives.
Yeah, it's like God handed him a blueprint for this crazy, unprecedented vessel.
Yeah, can you imagine being tasked with building something like that?
Oh my gosh. The scope of that project.
Especially when like shipbuilding was probably in its infancy.
Especially back then.
Yeah, but the source really makes it clear that Noah didn't question, he didn't hesitate, he just trusted.
He just had this unwavering obedience.
Yeah, and think about how long it took.
Decades.
Years, right?
Yeah, year after year, dedicating himself to this seemingly impossible project.
Like, what does that say about the nature of faith?
It makes you think about the power of belief, right?
Yeah.
Unwavering commitment, even when it seems incredibly daunting or illogical.
Yeah.
What would we be willing to sacrifice for something we deeply believe in?
Right. But it wasn't just building the ark.
Right.
It was also Noah was preaching.
Yeah, he was going around warning everyone.
Warning everyone about this coming flood, and nobody believed him.
Right. It's this element that's often overlooked.
Right.
Noah wasn't just a shipbuilder.
Yeah.
He was a messenger trying to convey this incredibly important message.
Yeah.
But it fell on deaf ears.
And that must have been so frustrating for him.
Oh, absolutely. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, like what were the social and cultural dynamics at play that made people so resistant?
Yeah, were they just unable to fathom this catastrophic event? Or was there something more to their disbelief?
Yeah, it makes you think about like the role of belief and skepticism and like the challenges of saying something that goes against what everybody thinks and the consequences of ignoring those warnings.
Right, even when they're coming from a place of genuine concern.
So we have this really complex backdrop, right? This world that's like spiraling toward destruction.
Yeah.
This righteous man who's been tasked with this seemingly impossible mission.
Right.
And this whole community that's just like, I don't believe you.
Right.
And the ark is almost done. What happens next?
Yeah, what happens next? So now it's time for everyone to board the ark, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't just Noah and his family. Remember?
Yeah, he had to preserve all of the animals.
Representatives of all these animals.
Can you imagine the logistics?
It's mind-boggling.
Gathering all these creatures.
Were they using like special techniques?
Yeah.
Like, how did they...
I mean, the source doesn't really go into detail.
Yeah, it just says they did it.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Yeah, but then there's this really powerful image that the source describes.
Yeah, what's that?
When God closes the door of the ark.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Like, that's a separation.
Yeah, a line is drawn.
Right, the people inside are saved. Yeah, and the people outside.
They're gonna face the consequences.
It's really a sobering moment.
Yeah, it really is.
But then...
The rain starts.
The rain starts. It's not just any rain.
Oh no.
40 days and 40 nights.
Relentless.
Of rain.
Yeah, just imagine the water just rising and rising.
Yeah.
The source really kind of emphasizes just how much water.
Yeah, the whole world was underwater.
Everything submerged.
Yeah, like even the mountains.
It's hard to even fathom.
And then for 150 days.
Just water.
Just water everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about terrifying, but also like kind of beautiful in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it really speaks to the power of nature.
Right, and it makes you think about the flood, like, is this a punishment? Or is this an act of cleansing?
Right, is it a destructive force or a transformative one?
Yeah, or maybe both.
It's complex.
Yeah, and the source doesn't really give a definitive answer.
But then as the waters start to recede, we start to see a glimmer of hope.
Right, Noah sends out these birds.
Yeah, first a raven.
Yeah, and then a dove.
Yeah, what a great choice.
A dove comes back with an olive branch.
Yeah, a symbol of peace.
Hope renewal.
I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
That feeling of relief?
It's like nature can come back from anything.
That's pretty remarkable.
And eventually the ark comes to rest on Mount Ararat.
On a mountain.
What a sight that must have been.
Can you imagine?
And what does Noah do?
What does he do?
He builds an altar.
Yeah, and he makes sacrifices to God.
Yeah, like a big thank you.
Yeah, he's acknowledging that divine power that brought them through.
Yeah, and that leads to something even bigger.
Which
covenant. The covenant between God and humanity.
God promises to never flood the earth again. It's a big promise.
Yeah, and he gives a sign.
A sign?
Yeah, rainbow.
Ah, the rain.
That symbol of hope.
Every time you see one,
you
think of this story.
Right, and it goes beyond language or culture.
Yeah, it's universal.
Yeah, but the story isn't just about the flood.
Right, there are all these deeper lessons.
What are some of the ones the source points out?
Well, I think one of the big ones is obedience and faith, right?
Yeah, like Noah trusted God's plan even when it seemed impossible.
Yeah, he had that unwavering trust and he acted on it.
And the source really goes into how that's like the core of the whole story.
Yeah, and it makes you think about, you know, what do we have faith in?
Yeah.
What guides our actions when things are uncertain?
Right, and the source also talks about judgment and mercy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
The flood is like this consequence for all the bad stuff that was happening.
Yeah. Right, but it's also like a fresh start, a do-over.
Yeah. It's a pretty complex idea.
It really is. It makes you think about, you know, accountability.
Yeah.
And what happens when we mess up.
But then there's also that potential for redemption.
Right. Even after big mistakes, we can always, you know, start over.
And that's where I think the theme of God's faithfulness comes in.
Yeah.
The rainbow, like that promise.
Yeah. No matter how bad things get, there's always that hope.
Yeah, the things will get better.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And the source points out that there are a lot of different interpretations of the Noah's Ark story.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some people take it literally.
Right, a historical account.
But then others see it as a parable.
Like a story full of symbolism.
Right.
And metaphors.
Like teaching these deeper truths about our relationship with God.
And with nature. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how one story can have so many meanings.
It really is. It just shows how powerful these old stories really are.
Right, and it's a story that still captures our imagination today.
Oh, for sure.
Like the source mentions how people are still looking for the ark.
On Mount Ararat.
Yeah, like what would we find if we ever discovered it?
That's the cool thing about these stories, you know? They make us want to learn more.
Yeah, to explore, to question things.
Whether you see it as a historical event or a spiritual lesson.
Yeah.
Or just a symbolic story.
Yeah.
It's still powerful and thought-provoking.
It really is. And, you know, the source kept coming back to this idea of Noah's faith and obedience.
Yeah. How about you, listener?
Yeah. If you were Noah,
faced with this huge task.
Yeah, would you have been able to do it?
To just trust.
Yeah.
When it didn't make sense.
That's a good question.
There's no easy answer.
So that was our deep dive into Noah's Ark.
What a story.
Yeah, it's a story about faith and obedience, judgment, and mercy.
And that hope for a new beginning.
Yeah. And even though we only scratched the surface.
Right, we just kind of skimmed the top.
Hopefully this has inspired you to go out and learn more.
Absolutely, keep exploring and questioning.
Yeah, and keep diving deep into these amazing stories.
They're all around us.
Till next time.
See ya.